We need to focus about the good things about the profession. We need to advertise and promote the opportunity. We need to change the perception of the younger generation.
If you don't see your face on the leadership board, how are you going to even think about wanting to aspire to work at that firm? Why would you choose a firm that where no one looks like you?
The thing I love about public accounting is that you're literally out there in the world doing whatever you want if you want to. You're not stuck in four walls if you don't want to be. Just open the door and walk out and do something different.
Welcome to the Accounting Influencers Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Brown. Continuing with a series of international panels we are doing to debate the future of accounting. We are in a challenging time, but also a time with multiple opportunities. We bring together the biggest, the best, the brightest leaders, influencers, and experts that are in or speak into the world of accounting and talk about what is really happening. These people speak to accountants every day, and they have insights that are truly valuable. So for you to stay informed and get the right intelligence, we're going to get the guests to introduce themselves in just a moment and tell you who they are. Then we have got a wonderful agenda of juicy questions to debate the future of accounting. So without further ado, Renee Mulders, lovely to have you with us. So please, a little introduction.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. So I am a partner with Convergence Coaching, and we're a national leadership consulting organization. We work exclusively with accounting firms around the United States and maybe into Canada sometimes. And as far as my focus at Convergence, we are all kind of involved in everything, but I'm really a numbers and KPIs geek at Convergence. So I do a lot of our benchmarking, and I'm super passionate about helping firms shift their business model. I think we've really got a lot of problems in how we're running the business model of accounting. So I love to think about that, make those firms more sustainable. And then I also I'm a remote work fanatic, and I'm sure we'll talk more about remote work and flexible work while we're together today. It's a hot topic in the general economy and definitely in accounting.
I hope we do. Thank you, Renee. Alison Ball, an old friend of mine. Great to have you with us.
Oh, thanks, Rob. Well, I think probably what most people may not know about me is that I'm a former accountant myself. So I really live, breathe, and sleep the debits and the credits and the puzzle that most accountants deal with every day, and the challenge and the joy of helping your clients succeed. So after being an accountant, I pivoted and went to Intuit and was there for 15 years leading the almost 16 actually, leading the influencer program. So that's where I met most of you, is in that work globally. And then now I pivoted again. I'm in marketing and communications, and I work for a company called Bookkeep. And you would think that Bookkeep is a bookkeeping firm, but it's not. We are a secure data bridge that sits between about 60 different e-commerce and retail selling and payment solutions and your QuickBooks Online and Xero and Zoho Books. So we take all that mess off your back.
That's
so
great.
Thank you for having me, and I'm excited to hear the panelists' thoughts today.
That's a beautiful thing, isn't it? When we do panels, we love it because it's not one guest, one interview, one opinion. You get to learn from other really smart people. Sonia Akmekcan, good to have you with us.
Thank you for having me here. Hi, everyone. My name is Sona Ekmekcan, and I'm the global leader of strategic accountant partnerships at Avalara. For those that don't know Avalara, we're a global tax compliance software company, been around for 20 years, and we serve accountants and also the direct market as well. I'm a California CPA and have been in the profession over 35 years, and I've done a lot of different things. I've been an auditor with the state of California, worked for the Big Four boutique accounting firm, but I have the exciting job now of really working directly with accountants and helping them streamline and drive efficient growth in their organizations. I'm super passionate about the profession, the challenges we're having, and so great to be here and looking forward to an amazing conversation.
Thank you for that. Andrew, as the token male on the panel, I thank you for filling out our diversity quota. It is so good to have you with us. Actually, we've done 20 of these panels, and some of them are all female, some of them are all male. It's the beauty of diversity. It's wonderful to have you with us. A little introduction, please.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate you having me. I'm Andrew Berg. I own Berg Advisors, a 100% virtual CPA firm with domestic and international staff and clients. I'm actually outside of Philadelphia on the East Coast of the US. We niche in client experience and a little bit in e-commerce as well. I also own Lightyear Business Advisors, which is a virtual business advisory service firm coaching businesses and accounting firm owners. We focus on advisory solutions our clients want at every step in the engagement while providing the services that clients need. So CPA work, obviously, but trying to be more an advisor and proactive. And with our core values, we just try to take our clients on a proactive relationship journey with multiple touch points and as frictionless as possible.
Fabulous. Well, let's dive right into it. So now I'm going to start with you. Accountants are doing well. Firms are growing, even throughout the pandemic. They must be sat back with their arms behind their head thinking, what a breeze this is. But there are threats, there are challenges. What do you feel they should be wary of?
So yes, accountants are doing well, but there's definitely challenges. I would say the number one thing is ROI in the profession, right? Look at it, the profession is struggling. We don't have enough accountants. It's because the investment that these students are making in their profession and the return they're getting out of it is not aligned compared to other professions, right? You invest 5 years, you've got the 150 hours, and you come out making less than other industry or other entry-level jobs. So I see that as the biggest threat. And I know there's a lot going on. There's a lot of visibility. A lot of people are trying to change that. But is it going to happen soon enough? Because today we're struggling as a profession. So I see that as the biggest challenge, or one of the big challenges.
I want to address that soon, because one question I've got lined up for you today is, if there is a brand problem that's not attracting the talent, whose responsibility is it to change that? Who's going to guide that? Renee, what do you feel are the things that accountants should be wary of right now to guard against complacency?
Well, complacency. I mean, I think that's the thing that concerns me the most, is that they are very successful sitting back saying what needs to change? Why do we need to change anything? And so I feel like almost you could have an initiative where you say we have to pick 3 things every year and we have to change something, because we need to be adjusting how we're using technology and how we're interacting and talking to our next gen and listening to them and really understanding what kind of firm do they want to see, what kind of firm do they want to work in the future. And then there's just a host of other ways we should be modernizing and upgrading our firms. And so I would be wary of, like, we're just going to do it the same as last year. I think that should be a big warning sign for firm leaders.
Yeah, the Sally message, same as last time, same as last year. Andrew, we're not talking about your firm, obviously, because you're progressive, you're innovative, you'll be doing everything right. You're the early adopters, but we are talking about the accounting profession generally here, in that it's doing well, but there might be an air of complacency. Where do you feel the threats might be coming from?
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that comment about complacency, because I'm very non-complacent and I'm what I would consider to be a disruptor, and try to disrupt as much as I possibly can and help and get other people to try and disrupt as well. I find that probably the complacency lies more in the firms that are focused on tax as opposed to focus on what's going on in the rest of the industry, which is accounting, advisory, and bookkeeping and technology, which has all started to come in this industry. And the ones that are in tax, yeah, I agree. There's a lot of complacency, a lot of people riding out the string, and no young people probably want to join those firms because they want to work those types of hours. But the other firms that are looking at what's going on in the future, I feel like those are more progressive. However, I still think there's challenges associated with what's going on. I don't want to be too controversial here, but I use the word epidemic a lot in our industry. I feel like we're right on the verge, the beginning of an epidemic here. There's a lack of time and a lack of the right mindset with a lot of firms and a lot of firm leaders. A lot of these firms that are complacent are difficult. They're going to be very difficult to sell or attract staff. There's a lack of quality staff that are out there and that want to join our profession. Technology is great but challenging because there's so many choices out there. So people have what do they call it? Paralysis by analysis.
Paralysis. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that clients expect more than ever. And it's easier to find a competitor. People can change and find a firm so much easier than they were able to in the past. And then the last part of this, I think that's really probably the part that probably bothers me the most as a firm leader is I don't really feel like the associations and or the governments have work well with the firms to make sure that our profession is aligned well to attract the younger generations.
Well, that's very comprehensive. You've hit on a lot of things there. By consensus, some of them are internal, the complacency and the inability to adapt and adopt and innovate. Some of them are external, with private equity and technology and business models and talent pipeline problems. Alison, where do you stand on where the hits are coming from for accountants?
Well, it's so interesting. All of you have hit on things that I sort of had on my list. It's interesting that, Sona was focusing on, Sona and Renee were sort of felt like they were sort of focusing on like new people in serious challenge there. Andrew was talking about more sort of established firms. So my comment, I think, where I would add is more for the established firms. And I think what I see in addition to everything that everybody has said is that there's this pattern of being really physically unhealthy. And I think we also need to make sure that we're people, make sure we remember we're people, and you can't really operate at peak and be happy unless you really do pay attention to, getting physical movement into your day. And interestingly enough, the younger people will respond to that. They want to come into firms where they can, go and play tennis in the middle of the day, or have just have more of a, or go for a run, or just like integrate their physical life with their mental life. So I would just add that as well. I think there has been more openness about this lately, and I think it's a really good move in the right direction. And it may make the firm more attractive and get people, because when you get the blood moving, you get the energy going.
Well, that's a lovely segue, Alison, because accounting can be, dare I say, fun, exciting. I'm a former high school math teacher. I'm not a qualified accountant, but I do know the numbers. We don't sell it well enough. The passion that you're exhibiting, Alison, Andrew's got it as well. I'm going to come to Andrew first on this next round of questions about whose responsibility is it to shape the brand of the accounting profession so that we can solve some of these problems, we can tell the stories correctly, and we can get generations coming in, and more importantly, stop people leaving. Andrew, where would you start with that? Whose feet does this fall at?
It's a great question. I have a lot of opinions on it without necessarily knowing who's the person or the people who are responsible. You look and see in the media, right? What's the thing everybody says in the media? Oh, it's busy season, or oh, there's a new tax law coming out, or oh, the badge of working 80 hours a week. Somehow, some way, it's gotten out there in the public, all of those stereotypes, and even in movies and TV shows. And what you're not seeing in any of these places are the parts of our industry that actually are fun and could be exciting and can help other business owners be more successful. It's not anywhere in the media. So I think that when these young people are thinking about what they want to do, their only understanding of what our industry is then talking to professors. And then you look at professors who are teaching the archaic theory that they teach in our industry. They're teaching debits and credits instead of teaching how to understand a business, a balance sheet, or how to understand, read a P&L and share your experiences with your clients. None of that's being taught. And then you go further down the line, and when they're being recruited into Big Four, right? Because they're not giving me a table at one of those universities with the recruiting session. So these people are getting big dollars going into bigger firms, and then they come out of it exhausted working these 80-hour weeks and think that that's what the entire profession's all about. We're not even given a chance, some of the medium and smaller firms, to even show what's going on. I personally blame the associations. They always seem to be focused on the big firms. Probably that's why, because that's where the money is. It's constantly, I never really see a whole lot of push towards what a lot of the smaller firms are doing out there and what could be so great about this industry.
Yeah. On these panels, I sometimes go with the question of the governing bodies, professional institutes, are they fit for purpose? And I tie that into the qualifications. I'm not going to go there today, but there is an answer that is demanded of the professional bodies and the role that they play. Renee, we're talking about branding the profession here and making it attractive to young talent. Where do you stand on this?
Yeah, I would take a little bit of a different take, and I agree with a lot of where you were, Andrew, but I would say the responsibility lies with each individual accountant. And you are passionate, Andrew, about what you do and your work and your firm. And I bet whenever you're talking to people just out in the community or at your dinner table, or if you have a chance to have students from a college come to your firm, I bet you would, like talk passionately about it and be excited and be talking about the opportunities. And so I feel like rather than blaming these various bodies, and certainly there is work to be done and there are things that we could change, it's going to start by individual accountants having different conversations at their dinner tables and when they go out with their friends and what they focus on, really, right? Because we do have this opportunity season that most people are in right now that is very busy and very taxing and challenging. It's one of the business model problems that we have that I think we're going to have to solve at some point, this big, huge peak in the tax practice. And, but also we have all these wonderful things about our profession that we're not talking about. So reaching into that grab bag of like experiences about my role as an accountant and pulling out some of the good things and talking about those. So it's really, I think it's individuals are going to have to change. And then obviously, firm leaders have this opportunity to get out in their communities and really be talking in high schools and maybe even going into middle schools and talking about all the great things about accounting, the flexibility, the opportunity to be a professional and to make my own career and to have choices about who I serve and what kind of work I do and to really help people. I mean, we are like the superheroes of the economy in accounting. But we don't talk a lot about that. And everyone got really excited about that during the pandemic. There was all this excitement about how we were helping our clients and like surviving this very difficult financial, economic period. But we've somehow forgotten that and just kind of fallen back into moaning and groaning. And so I would say less moaning and groaning is going to be the thing that's really going to get us there.
I really wanted to jump in, and do you mind if I jump in and add on what?
Do it, Allison. Do it.
Yeah, he said we could at the beginning. So Renee, in addition to what you're saying, I think those conversations are happening, and they really, there's some real bright shining stars that are starting those conversations. Like think about Dawn Brolin. She doesn't call it busy season. She calls it softball season. And the reason is that she made a choice that she was going to coach softball, even though she has a busy tax practice. They are at exactly the same time. So she coaches college softball. So she rebranded it as softball season. So there are leaders that are happening, and the responsibility, I think, at the individual level. I agree with everything Andrew said and everything that Renee said, and I can't wait to hear what Sona says. But I think everybody does have that individual responsibility. And one of the things that you can do is you can just follow some of the thought leaders and listen to what they say. Like you don't actually even have to be like creating those ideas yourself. They're out there. And then you can reach out and you can, like, I'm just going to use Dawn Brolin again, because she's just a perfect example. You can just download her book and read it. Right? I mean, there's just all these things that you can do. So I think and then I'm just going to go back to the health thing. I think on a personal level, everybody needs to keep themselves healthy and, and mentally in the game. And one of the things that you can do that is to be that lifelong learner and to challenge those sacred cows, if you will, and change the things that you feel you need to change. But there's so much leadership. There's so much thought leadership out there for you to listen to. I mean, Rob's an example. Just listen to the podcast, Go for a walk and listen to the podcast, right?
Sona, nobody's mentioned the software providers and tech vendors yet as leading the charge here for the brand of the profession. Do you feel any responsibility at your door?
Absolutely. So first of all, I would agree with the statements made. We do definitely have a branding and positioning challenge. This is a great profession and we only hear the negatives. But who's responsible to change it? I think everyone is. It's not going to be just one group or one segment that's going to change it. I think it starts from the AICPA, it's the professional associations, it's the vendors, technology vendors. I think we as technology vendors have ownership. Our educators, they need to start bringing in real life examples into the classroom. Start introducing the profession in high schools, in elementary and middle schools. I fell in love with the profession when I was introduced to accounting in high school as an 11th grader, and I knew that was the path I wanted to go. Had I not been in that class, maybe I wouldn't be here today. So I think we all have a responsibility for driving this change, and it's not going to be just one person. And it's not easy. I mean, I think we've been talking about this, people have been talking about it for years, and it's such a difficult needle to move, and rightfully so. But we shouldn't give up. We should do our part, because I really think there's an opportunity to really make this profession shine.
And the apps can hire accountants internally to make their apps actually work for accountants. Like I think that's a huge thing to do. Kind of a
I wonder if the
no-brainer in my
accounting
mind,
profession is
but
like climate change in that it is everyone's job.
it's everyone's
Because it's
job.
everyone's job, nobody does anything because they think everyone else is going to do something. I'm also thinking to your comments, Renee, about the 2012 Olympics that were here in the United Kingdom. And the whole vibe about the Olympics being here was that there would be a legacy of sport that remained after the Olympics had gone, and schools and children would get into sport. You talked about the pandemic and the opportunity accountants had to shine a light on their profession and really make a difference and showcase the brilliant things they were doing to help businesses keep the lights on and be those superheroes. But it's almost like the legacy left. The Olympics left town. Everybody went back to what they were doing, and it wasn't really shone upon the differences that they made. So places to go, strides to do. I want to dive into talent because it's a common thread here. And let's start with you on this one, Andrew. When it comes to talent, we know there's a black hole. We know people are leaving accounting, going into tech industry. We know people are not coming into the pipeline at the beginning because a degree in law or something else pays more once you come out. So for all of these reasons, how would you brand or change the profession to make it more attractive?
Wow, that's a really good question. Very difficult to answer that specifically. I think what everybody else had said is great points. I think it's everybody has to make a change. It's not any one group for sure. I've done my part in trying to speak, but one small person really, really tough, and every one of the influencers out there is a small person, right? In the grand scheme of things. So I think that I think there's a large marketing budget that needs to be spent to be able to attack this. And I don't know where that budget comes from, if that's in our industries or universities or both. I personally believe that it's probably not going to come from the media side of this thing, that our universities have to start thinking about changing the curriculum and making the curriculum a little less about theory and a little bit more about practicality. We're focusing on help. We're helping our clients by using technology. Some of the things about debits and credits now that are really, really important aren't even things that a lot of young people need to know, because the software is taking care of that for them. Now, that's not necessarily a good thing not to know it. However, to ignore completely make sure that the talent comes out knowing how to utilize the software is a big mistake as well. So I think that there's a lot of theory being taught right now in those universities as opposed to practicality. So if you want to get young people more excited about it, I think there's got to be practicality brought in, more realistic approach to how our firms really help people. And I just want to add one more point just about what we were talking about a moment ago, not to jump back, but I think that, when we think about what happened in the pandemic and there was this huge opportunity and then all of a sudden everybody went back, I think the big piece that people forget is that it wasn't that everybody, I think, wanted to go back. I think there are quite a few that probably did. I think a lot of people were forced to go back between PPP loans and second round of PPP loans and then changing the extension deadlines on tax returns. And before you knew it, you were a year and a half past the pandemic and never even had a chance to take a breath. And I think that as a firm leader, you stop and you're saying to yourself, oh my, and by the way, we sacrifice for our clients. So the first thing we do is sacrifice for our client. Every time we sacrifice for our client, we're taking away from ourselves. And I think the only way around that is to stop, literally just stop doing what you're doing and set aside time for yourself. But going back to the question you were saying is, I think it comes back, my opinion on this is it's the universities. They're the front lines of teaching these kids what the practicality of our industry is and what it can be in the future, and maybe direct people in their freshman year towards that as opposed to one of the other careers.
Sona, Andrew there mentioned a big marketing budget. Some software vendors have a war chest big enough to advertise at the Super Bowl. I don't know what Avalara's budget is like and whether you divert any of that to branding the accounting profession, but what would you do to attract people into accounting?
I think that we need to celebrate the successes, right? We need to focus about the good things about the profession. I love this profession for so many different reasons. We need to advertise and promote the opportunity. We need to change it was discussed earlier, and I don't know who mentioned it. Even in the movies, it's about the long hours, it's about the number crunching. I have a high schooler. I think he would be a phenomenal accountant. But his message to me is, Mom, A, I don't want to work as hard as you do. B, I don't want to travel like you travel, and I don't like numbers. And so that is the perception of the younger generation. Nobody talks about the exposure. Like you go in as an accountant, but you get exposure to the financial health of organizations and different industries. And how many people really move on and be true entrepreneurs? I keep telling my kids, this is a gateway to your passion, right? Not many people, I don't practice accounting. A lot of us don't do accounting. We fall into this accounting, but it's so broad. There's so much opportunity. There's so much potential. It's not just the entry level. There's a lot of people making good money in this profession. So I think that's what we need to educate the new generation about. And that's what we need to do is celebrate those successes. And that will get them excited because they want to be entrepreneurs. They want to contribute in a big way. And I think this profession right now is hungry for these great leaders with the new mindset that can really drive and make a change.
Alison, it speaks to the value prop. Yeah, it speaks to the value prop, Alison, doesn't it, for accountants? And if we're selling it as come be an accountant, get locked in a dark room with spreadsheets for 20 years and you might make partner if you're lucky. We've got that wrong, haven't we? So how would you rebrand the profession to get the best minds in?
Well, I've always, probably because of my training at Intuit, I always fall in love with sort of the problem, right? Rather than sort of the solution. And if you kind of peel the onion, what accountants really do for their clients is they help them achieve their dreams. Mm-hmm. And so how wonderful is it on all accountants and bookkeepers? And I challenge you to find even one person out there who's an accountant or a bookkeeper who isn't heart-led. Andrew said, we sacrifice for our clients. We do it. He said it. And I know I did when I was an accountant. We want our clients to be successful. That is our definition of success, is when we help our clients be successful. And so helping them achieve their dreams is just this really huge rallying cry that everybody can get behind. Would anybody want to say, no, I don't want to help somebody achieve their dreams? Very few people would say that. I mean, the other thing I think, and I loved what Sona said about learning accounting in high school. I also did learn in 11th grade, which was sort of, I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to use it for, but this is great. Something I know, it's great. So high schools are great if it's done in the right way. And Andrew's point was, you got to make it, got to show what we're really doing, not what this dark room thing that you were talking about, Rob, where we have to work 8 hours a week. But the other thing I think we haven't mentioned this yet is we have to figure out a way to level the playing field for women and BIPOC individuals, and also make it an inclusive field for the LGBTQ folks as well. Because if we make it inclusive, and there are niches or niches, however you say that word, there are niche practices that I'm aware of one in San Francisco where it's a trans individual and they basically only serve, trans folks. So there are basically those pockets, but that shouldn't be the case. We should just see our community represented in our firms and everybody feel comfortable and have a career path. And that's the other challenge. When you look at some of these firms, and I'm sorry, I'm going to sound a bit controversial here, but it's a bunch of old white guys. If you don't see your face on the leadership board, how are you going to even think about wanting to aspire to work at that firm? Why would you choose a firm where no one looks like you?
Yeah.
So there's a number of layers there, right? But I think setting that vision, and I love the idea of a Super Bowl ad. Sona, if you accountants achieve their dreams and you do that, I'll I'll be there. I'll help you with it. I don't know. I don't have any. I don't have
Alison
the
will
budget.
put her
Allison.
cheerleading uniform on and come
I'm
and
telling
cheer from the
you.
sides. Okay.
It's
Can
so
I just
great.
add one thing to what you know, when you said that, Allison, it got me thinking. The CPA track is intended and geared towards young professionals. We have a shortage, and I'm not seeing enough about people that is second careers, working moms coming
yeah.
back to the workforce. They have experience. They've just been out
Late
of pocket.
career
Let's
people
bring
even.
them in, right?
Yeah, maybe you've been a business owner and then you want to, help other business owners. That would
Pivot.
be a fantastic thing to do, right?
Let's just
Or
be more
moms coming
focused.
back in. Absolutely. Absolutely. Or, veterans. That's the other thing I think about. There's a ton of veterans,
Let's bring Renee in. She's dying to get going on this one. If I gave you a
Yeah,
few.
I love where the conversation has gone because it's like the leave no stone unturned section of the conversation. I think we aren't really looking in all corners of our community for people who could work in our firms. And that could be people who just don't feel like they belong inside our firms. So they're of another race or another background or gender that they don't feel comfortable. There is that. And then there's also non-accountants. I mean, there's this whole probably, I don't know what the percentage is, but maybe I'm going to venture like 45% of what we do in an accounting firm doesn't require an accounting degree, definitely doesn't require a CPA. If we could peel out those pieces of our business and have people come and work alongside us, do I really need to reach out for information from the client? Do I need to build the project plan myself as an accountant? Do I need to input the numbers? Some technical work doesn't really require an accounting degree. It requires training. And we do have to figure out how are we going to train those people and bring them along and have them feel like they can have a career path with us. But I think really in a way, the sky's the limit if we could open up our minds to who can come and work with us. So I love all of that. And then I do have one other passionate plea. And that is, we started this whole question, Rob, with everyone's responsible. And you said if everyone's responsible, no one's responsible. And so I would encourage people to just think about in my community, what could I affect? And so if you're someone who's super passionate about your job, offer to go down to the college campus and teach a class for the day and talk about what makes you passionate about the work that you do. If you are, someone who really loves hanging out with young kids, get involved and, go talk to kids in an elementary school about accounting and bring it down to their level. So find some place, and maybe it's in campus recruiting, that you're going to go and be like the cheerleader and be really excited about this wonderful profession and draw people over to your table and, make a difference in that little corner of the campus recruiting environment on that campus. So thinking small. But over time, those small things start to have this ripple effect. And hopefully, of course, we're going to get air cover from the AICPA and state societies, and we're all going to step up together. But I wouldn't get held back by that, by pointing fingers or waiting for someone else. I would just say, okay, today or this year, what am I going to go do to make a difference in my community?
Okay. Well, we've hit talent. Let's talk about tech. If we're having a conversation about the future, we know that tech is driving things forward. Sonat, let's start with you on this one. What could tech providers, software vendors do better to serve the accounting profession?
One thing we haven't talked about is AI, right? There's a lot of buzz about AI.
We've got this far and not talked about AI, but it had to come up.
I'm surprised about that. But there's a lot of buzz about accountants needing to adopt AI-based technology. I believe that is the responsibility of tax vendors. It's difficult to go to a mid-sized accounting firm, a local boutique accounting firm, and say, you need to invest in AI. I think firms invest in AI by picking tools and technology that vendors like Avalara have that can help drive that efficiency. That's our job, is to deliver cutting-edge technology that's going to enable accounting firms to use it to work smarter, not harder. So we need to deliver technology that automates the repetitive, mundane tasks so you can have your resources focus on advisory and the sexy work they're excited about, addresses shortage of talent to a certain extent, right? And it also adds efficiency with all the disruption we're seeing in the profession around PE involvement, the reorganization. Accountants are no longer thinking, let me do what's right for my client. If I do a good job, I'll make money. No, it's about efficient growth, and adoption of these technologies helps firms get to that. So the number one job that we have as technology vendors is to deliver the tools that the accountants need to drive that efficient growth.
What about you, Alison? You're in this space too. You're
Yeah.
selling software to accountants.
Yeah, so my answer is going to be a yes and like just yes, 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 everything Sona said. And I think we've got software vendors really need to do two things better. And one, I'm just going to go back and repeat myself what I said earlier. We need to make sure that the vendors have accountants on staff. And it is shocking to know how many tech vendors don't. And so, for example, I want to use an example of Shopify. Now, Shopify is not an accounting system, but I've heard people call, Shopify the way to drive, accountants crazy. And because it does what it does very, very, very well, helps e-commerce sellers sell their products really beautifully and helps them scale really fast. And then the accountants are left to clean up. Oh my gosh, right? And you cannot run. So that's the other thing. We need to make sure that the software vendors are understanding deeply the problems that their clients face. And most of them do. I think they start with a good problem, making sure that they have accountants involved in the design and the coding and everything. I think into it with their advisory council. Andrew, I think you were on council at one point, weren't you? Yeah,
Yes.
that's how we met. They do a really good job of bringing the accountants in so that the real life is known, and then bringing everything to real time. And that's the other thing, is the accountants and the bookkeepers need to have everything real time, because then they can really advise their clients. And so it's a very complex environment that everybody uses. Avalara is a terrific example because you can literally just offload your sales tax. In fact, Avalara is embedded in Bookkeep in my product, in the product that I work for, the company. But we did that because the sales tax compliance is something that most people, they don't want to learn that.
Yeah.
Like there's a few people like the sales tax sisters who are living, eating, breathing, and loving it. Most people are like, I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole, especially when I'm selling in 50 states and 3 countries. Imagine that, right? So it's making sure that we are focusing on the efficiencies. We're focusing on helping with that, that return on investment. That's super important, saving time, bringing things to real time, and then taking all of those things that soul sucking stuff out. Like, who wants to sit there? Dawn Brolin does this. She goes, anytime we're using this, I'm holding up my keyboard, we're not using this. It's just like, right?
Yeah.
Not using your, so people want to use their brain, and they want to use their relationships to their clients, and they want to help them succeed. And in order to do that, you need the data, and you need the data real time, and it has to be accurate.
Okay.
So yeah, I kind of covered a lot of stuff there.
You did. Very comprehensive.
Sorry.
Renee, what have you got for us on the tech side of things?
I'm just thinking about the profession's next gen. I think, for a lot of the more mature people in the profession, and this isn't necessarily like, obviously it's not exact, right? There are some mature people in the profession who love technology and eat it for breakfast, but a lot of them are uncomfortable with it, nervous about it, not sure how to implement it, not sure what to do with it. I'm thinking about the more traditional sides of the practice who, it's overwhelming. And so I think firms should really be including their next gen, talking to their next gen. And so next gen, what does that mean? I mean, that's probably younger millennials, the oldest millennials in their 40s now. So we're talking about younger millennials and then Gen Z, getting them involved with technology committees and having them drive this technological change inside of the firm and really vet these products and decide which ones we want to put in and run it and manage it. And so it would be a great way to empower young people in the profession. I think they would be very excited about that. And it's obviously a great win-win for the firms, because there's corners they need to turn that right now they just can't turn on their own because they don't like it. They're afraid of it. They don't want to do it. And I guess the other part of that is, go ahead, Allison. What did you say?
I would say they're too busy. You can't, like,
There are
when
too
you're
many.
when you're drowning and somebody says you have to
True.
put in AI or put in new tech, you're like, how am I going to find the time to do that?
True. That's true. That's right. And I don't think our young people are necessarily drowning as much as the mature
Right.
professionals are in
That's
the
right.
profession. But the other thing to recognize is that our clients are made up of an awful lot of next gen are stepping into leadership and clients. And so we could say, well, but I mean, we don't really need to do this yet. But I would say the urgency is there. I know as an individual tax client myself, it's frustrating to me to have to deal with the technology with my practitioner. I just feel like I know it could be so much better. I know what's available. And so I think there is that like urgency and that feeling from clients of, really, this is how we do it. And I'm still emailing you my stuff. And so we are going to have to work on this, and I don't know if it's AI. Yes, I mean, AI is exciting and there's all these implications for that, but it's also like in how we interact with our clients and how we're managing data. We just so many improvements that we need to make.
Yeah. Andrew, let's leave the last word with tech on with you. You're probably an early adopter. You've got the latest iPhone, the latest Mac, the latest everything, a gadget for this, that, and the other. Am I right?
Yeah, probably a little bit too much. I tell my team all the time, the only thing that's consistent in our firm is change. And it's been going on since 2011, 2010, going way back. And every year we implement something new. We look at what's out there and we look to try and be more efficient. However, we got to remember that implementing new s- solutions takes time and distracts you from other things you might want to do, and obviously takes away resources, whether it's money or people. So we're very deliberate about what we do. But when looking at your question, though, I kind of look at it more from like a global perspective, because I know I'm an early adopter. I've been part of a lot of groups, like Allison said. I've been on the Accountants Council with Intuit. Around a lot of the people who've already taken these steps towards being a more modern firm. And I look at a lot of this from a high level, as all these other firms out there. So I work with a lot of vendors now for the software that I have in my tech stack. And I tell those vendors I'm happy to speak to customers about what we are, how we use the product and whether we're happy or unhappy with it, and talk to them about trying to get them to be about the use of the product. And I can't believe how many times I'm on calls with people who are so far behind in the technology game. And unfortunately, there's really no clear, defined best practice or technology. There's so many solutions. So I think, again, going back to that paralysis by analysis situation, it's a real thing. I think that accountants have a tough time buying from salespeople. They don't want to be sold, and they will not buy from a salesperson. So I keep thinking a little bit. I think what Allison said earlier is, I think every tech should have accountants on their team and also work with existing users to get on calls to talk to potentials about the use of the software, so that they listen to those people. Because I think when there's that authentic conversation occurring, people tend to say, oh, wait, there's another person out there using it in this way. Can I reach out if I have any issues? Absolutely. And I think that on the onboarding experience after buying a lot of this tech, sorry to be controversial here again, is really poor. I mean, it's a really poor process in a lot of tech. Maybe it's not every tech. And the reality of the situation is that I think that if you had more accountants involved inside your technology, you would be able to understand the way that each person wants to use the technology to help them implement it easier.
Yeah. Okay, vendors, are you listening? We've got two on here that probably already doing a lot of that stuff. So I want to give you all one wish. Renee, I'll start with you on this one. You might want to hit remote working or something else. I know you're passionate about a lot of topics in this world, but if you could change one thing overnight in the accounting world, just click your fingers and you wake up tomorrow morning and it's all sorted, as we say here in the UK. What would you wish for?
I think for most firms that I meet, they're in the minnow management business. So they have lots and lots of small clients, and they're not, they're spending lots of time sort of dealing with all these little things, and they're not giving enough time to their best clients, and they're not going deep enough, and they're not talking to those clients about their needs. And There are obviously other services and things that they could do together. And so if I could snap my fingers, I would say we're going to fix the business model. We're going to get out of the minimum management business. We're going to charge more per client. We're going to have fewer clients. We're going to have time to go deeper with them. And we're also going to then have the time to be able to step out and play tennis during the middle of the day, like Allison said, or get to the gym in the morning and manage those peak seasons better, take better care of ourselves so that we can go to the dinner table and say, hey, today was a pretty good day and I feel good about this work that I'm doing. So really like figuring out this profitability issue and this issue of being constantly underwater and overwhelmed. I think the key is the whole minimum management thing and how many clients and what we're charging. And there's just a lot of opportunity to reform our profession from right at that angle.
The whole danger with that, Renee, is if you wish that, then accountants would have a life overnight. I mean, who would have thought that? So,
well, we would really have a problem as a country, I know, in the United States, because there aren't enough accountants. So, Andrew, you said at some point, clients can go somewhere else. And yes, the best clients can go somewhere else. But we're already seeing in the United States that there are certain types of work that cannot be served anymore. And because nobody wants it and there aren't enough accountants to do it. So, I mean, there is that whole societal problem, but I don't know how to solve those big problems. I'm thinking about like my clients and these people who I care about, and I watch them burn themselves out. And then, try to figure out how do I, back to brand, like young people look at being like we're drowning for 5 or 6 months out of the year and they say, you do this for your whole career. Yeah. I don't know if I want to sign up for that. So I do think it's like we're going to have to figure it out firm by firm. And then I guess as a country, we're going to have to figure out how are we going to solve the problem of our demographic cliff that we're all like have been running towards and are currently we continue to run towards today.
Well, I've given you a wish, so it will all be sorted by tomorrow morning. So
right, the demographic problem too, Rob.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Take two. Andrew, one wish from you. The genie's out of the bottle. What are you going for?
Change the deadlines as it relates to tax. They need to start spreading out tax so there's no tax season. It's got to be spread out throughout the year. I don't know if they do that by social security number, they do that by zip code, by region, whatever it is. I think that the only way that a lot of these firms who have a lot of great people, a lot of smart people, and a lot of dedicated people to break their habit is to be able to be given back some time so that they go and listen to other influencers or go to conferences and be able to see what's going on out there. And a lot of it comes back to this race of deadline 1, then nobody wants to work in the summer, race to deadline number 2, then all of a sudden it's October, November, and we're planning for the next race. And it's just really an awful, awful process. I think that the deadlines have to be pushed back and extended throughout the year and be more what do they call that? Rolling. Thank you. Rolling. Exactly.
It's funny that you call it a habit too, Andrew, that they can't break their habit of how they've always worked, like a crack habit or something.
Well, we'll sort that one just like that, Andrew. That's gone overnight. So well done on that one. Alison, what about you? One wish. What have you got?
I love what Renee and Andrew have said. So my wish is really that the accountants and bookkeepers out there would be recognized as the cool heroes that they are. And I just think once that story is told, and when you see the emotion and like Brad Smith did it really, really well. And I wish I had it recorded because he said accountants and bookkeepers help small businesses survive. And every time a small business survives, this is the economic impact that. And so he was able to, I don't know, Andrew, you might have even been there for that. It was years ago that he did it. It might have been around 2010, 2011. And it was just this, everybody came away and we were all so fired up. And so I think there does need to be that recognition of the absolutely vital role that the accountants and bookkeepers are. And I'm putting bookkeepers in, I think of it as one word, accountants and bookkeepers. I'm not just talking about CPAs here. And tax accountants, bookkeepers, CPAs, EAs.
The recognition word you.
The role that they critical role that they play.
Okay. Sona, genie's out of the bottle for you. Wave that magic wand. It's done. What have you got?
First of all, Allison, I absolutely agree with you. I think the profession saw a little bit of that recognition during the pandemic, and we loved it. I'd love to see that on a regular basis. But as far as the magic wand, I would love for firms to not only think about their clients, but to think about people in general, including their resources. And it goes to, and I've seen this being in the profession, your good workers get burned out and they leave. They're so focused on client service, client service. It's the people we need to think about across their own company as well. So I'd love that to see that change.
Well, we're going to wrap things up with a message of hope. We've granted some wishes, we've righted some wrongs, we've laid out some issues, we've pointed some fingers, and we've given a few solutions. But I want to ask you all, and Alison, I'll start with you to kick us off. For the audience watching, listening this podcast on YouTube or wherever they are, why is this a good time to be working in accounting?
Because you literally first of all, it's a great time to be working in accounting because you have an incredible adventure ahead of you of your choice. And you get to choose which clients you work with. You get to choose what work you do. You get to be exposed. You can literally get to help people achieve their dreams. And if that isn't for you, you can pivot like Sona and I did and work in tech and basically, help that magnify that. So the choices are infinite. And I think people just need to understand that those stereotypes just aren't the case anymore. They're the exception, not the rule.
Yeah. Sona, for you, why is this a good time to be in this game?
The profession is going through not only a transformation, but disruption. There's so much happening at a macro level. Organizations are changing, how they're serving their clients, technology is being adopted. There's a massive transformation, and with transformation comes great opportunity. It is a perfect time for people to enter this profession. It's hungry for new leadership, for young leadership. So I wish I was entering the profession now and not 35 years ago. So I think the path forward is exceptionally well lit.
Andrea, I'm going to leave you to last on this because you're nodding at all of these answers and you're in this pioneering a trail. Renee, why is this an exciting time from your perspective to be in the accounting world?
Yeah, talent are on the move right now. They're making choices about where they want to make their career. And so I think, have them choose your firm. I think it's firm leaders really highlighting what are the great things that we're doing, the interesting things that are happening here, the exciting things that are going on. As long as firms can differentiate themselves and create that place that people want to choose, I think there's a lot of hope that people are going to choose you.
Yeah. Andrew Berg, apart from the ineffectual governing bodies and the deadlines and the tech that doesn't work and the talent shortage and the really long hours and all the other things we've said, you are still smiling. Why is it a good time to be in the accounting game?
Yeah, I'm still smiling because the thing I love about public accounting, I've been doing this for a little bit north of 30 years, in and out of different firms of different sizes and different types. And the thing I love about it is you can do whatever you want. I can do whatever I want. I can wake up tomorrow and say, we're not doing that anymore, and we just stop doing it. And the thing I love about it is that there's tons of flexibility. And now that we're virtual, my firm is 100% virtual, with the ability to be virtual, not only do you have the ability to integrate your life with your business and work whenever you want and play whenever you want, but you can do whatever you want with your firm. If you want to be a payroll firm, be a payroll firm. You want to be just a bookkeeping firm, be a bookkeeping firm. If you want to do a little bit of everything, you do a little bit of everything. To me, I always say to people, who doesn't like doing puzzles, right? It's like ultimate puzzle, right? Find the corners and edges and work your way in, right? Cheat off the box. It's, to me, loving puzzles, technology, helping people be more successful, being flexible, communicating with people. To me, the thing I love about public accounting is that you're literally out there in the world doing whatever you want if you want to. You're not stuck in four walls if you don't want to be. Just open the door and walk out. and do something different. And you have the opportunity, because there's a lack of quality people and a lack right now and there's tons of people looking for people like you if you want to do something special.
And Andrew, you can do it from anywhere. That's the other thing, is that remote work is so possible with this work we do. Our clients accept it. Our firms know how to do it. We have the technology. So it is also like ultimate flexibility. You talked about the like when flexibility and who I serve flexibility. And then certainly there's the where flexibility.
We have sorted out the world's problems right here. 4 people in a room for 1 hour. Thank you so much for your passion and your insights and your preparation for today's debate. We have mapped out the future of accounting. The answers are all here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.